The stars looked different this far from home. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, watching the endless black space through the main window. 18 months of travel had brought them farther from Earth than any human had ever gone. The ship hummed quietly around him, its engines pushing them through space at speeds that would have been impossible just 50 years ago. "Commander, we're picking up something strange on the sensors," said Lisa Carter from the pilot's seat. Her voice was calm, but Jake could hear the excitement underneath. After months of empty space, anything new was worth getting excited about. Jake walked over to her station and looked at the screen. There was a huge object ahead of them, bigger than anything they had ever seen. It looked like a space station, but it was the size of a small moon. Lights blinked across its surface, and strange shapes stuck out from its sides like metal trees. "Ryan, are you getting any signals from that thing?" Jake asked, turning to the communications officer. Ryan Hayes looked up from his console, his face pale. "Sir, I'm picking up dozens of different signals. Different languages, different frequencies. It's like a whole city up there." Amanda Brooks, the ship's engineer, moved to the science station. "The energy readings are off the charts. Whatever that thing is, it's got power sources we can't even identify." Jake felt his heart beat faster. This was what they had come looking for. Proof that humans were not alone in the universe. But now that they had found it, he felt a cold fear in his stomach. The alien station was so big, so advanced. What did that mean for humanity? "Lisa, slow us down. Let's approach carefully," Jake ordered. But before Lisa could touch the controls, the ship shook violently. Red lights flashed on every console, and a loud alarm began to sound. "We're caught in some kind of beam," Amanda shouted over the noise. "I can't break us free." Jake watched in horror as their ship was pulled toward the massive station. The horizon's edge was completely helpless, like a fish caught on a hook. All their advanced technology meant nothing against whatever was pulling them in. The station grew larger and larger in the window until it filled their entire view. Then, with a grinding sound of metal on metal, their ship was pulled inside through a huge opening in the station's side. The four humans sat in stunned silence as their ship settled onto a platform inside the alien structure. The platform was enormous, big enough to hold 100 ships their size. Strange lights cast weird shadows on the walls, and the air itself seemed to shimmer with energy. "Life support is showing atmosphere outside," Amanda said quietly. "We can breathe out there." Jake made a decision that would change everything for humanity. "We're going to meet them. If they wanted us dead, they could have destroyed our ship already." The four crew members put on their sidearms and walked to the airlock. Jake's hands shook slightly as he opened the door. The air that rushed in smelled strange, like metal and something else he couldn't identify. They stepped out onto the platform and found themselves facing a group of beings that looked like they had stepped out of a nightmare. Some were tall and thin with scales like snakes. Others looked like giant insects with too many arms. One creature seemed to be made of living crystal, its body catching and reflecting the strange lights. But the most frightening thing was how they all looked at the humans. Their eyes held no curiosity, no wonder. They looked at Jake and his crew the way a person might look at insects that had crawled into their house. The largest creature, a reptilian being with dark green scales and yellow eyes, stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice came from a device around its neck, turning its alien words into perfect English. "I am High Arbiter Zekthul of the Galactic Oversight Council. You are humans from the planet Earth in the Sol system." It wasn't a question. Jake tried to keep his voice steady. "I'm Commander Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Horizon's Edge. We come in peace, hoping to make contact with other intelligent life." Several of the aliens made sounds that might have been laughter, but there was no humor in it. "Your hopes are irrelevant," Zekthul said. "You have been brought here to receive judgment. The Council has observed your species for some time. We have seen your wars, your destruction of your own planet, your violence toward each other. You are like children playing with fire." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. "We're not children. We've come farther than any human before us. We've learned to work together, to explore space, to—" Silence. Zekthul's voice cut through Jake's, words like a knife. The Council has made its decision. Your species will be classified as restricted development. You will return to your solar system and remain there. Any attempt to leave will result in the complete destruction of your planet. The words hit Jake like a physical blow. You can't do that. You can't just lock us up because you're afraid of what we might become. We are not afraid, said another alien, this one with blue skin and too many eyes. We are practical. In our 10,000 years of governing this region of space, we have seen many species like yours. Those who were allowed to expand without guidance brought only chaos and destruction. We learned to contain such species before they could spread their violence to peaceful worlds. Lisa Carter stepped forward, her voice shaking with anger. Peaceful? You just kidnapped us and threatened to destroy our entire world. How is that peaceful? It is efficient, Zekthul replied. The needs of the many outweigh the wants of the few. Billions of beings live in harmony under Council rule. We will not allow one primitive species to threaten that harmony. Jake looked around at the other aliens. Some looked uncomfortable, but none spoke up. They were all afraid of the Council, he realized. This wasn't just about humans, the Council controlled everyone. What gives you the right to make this choice for us? Jake asked. Power, Zekthul said simply. We have it. You do not. That is the only right that matters in this universe. The High Arbiter gestured to two of the insect-like beings. Place monitoring devices on their ship. They will report any attempt to leave the Sol system. Also, install suppression fields. We cannot allow them to develop technologies that might threaten Council authority. As the aliens worked on their ship, Jake and his crew were forced to wait. They tried to ask questions, to learn more about the Council and the other species, but the aliens ignored them. They were not interested in conversation with beings they saw as barely more than animals. Finally, after what felt like hours, they were allowed back on their ship. The Horizon's Edge was pushed out of the station by the same invisible force that had pulled them in. As they flew away, Jake looked back at the massive structure and made a silent promise. The Council thought they had won. They thought humans would just accept their fate and stay quietly in their corner of space. But they had made one mistake. They had let the humans go home. And now Earth would know that they were not alone in the universe. Now Earth would know that somewhere out there, bullies ruled the galaxy through fear and violence. And if Jake knew anything about humans, it was that they had never been good at accepting bullies. The Horizon's Edge began its long journey home, carrying the most important message in human history. The Council controlled everything, but soon, they would learn what happened when you threatened humanity's freedom. Soon they would learn that humans had never been good at following rules they didn't help make. The news hit Earth like a thunderbolt. Every television screen, every computer, every phone carried the same message. Commander Jake Morrison stood in front of the cameras at the United Nations building, his face tired but determined. Behind him, the other crew members of the Horizon's Edge waited to answer questions. We are not alone in the universe, Jake said, his voice carrying to billions of people around the world. But we are prisoners. President Catherine Walsh sat in the White House Situation Room, watching the broadcast with her top advisors. The room was completely silent except for Jake's voice explaining what the Council had told them. When he finished, the room exploded with angry voices. This is impossible, said Secretary of Defense Robert Clark. They can't just lock us up like animals in a zoo. They can, and they did, said Admiral Ben Rodriguez, the head of Earth Space Forces. The question is what we're going to do about it. Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's top scientist, leaned forward in her chair. We need to understand their technology first. How do these monitoring devices work? What are these suppression fields they mentioned? President Walsh raised her hand for silence. The first thing we need to do is stay calm. We can't let panic take over. But we also can't just accept this. Americans have never been good at accepting bullies, and neither have free people anywhere. Across the globe, the reaction was the same. In London, the Prime Minister called an emergency meeting. In Tokyo, scientists began studying the strange devices the aliens had attached to the Horizon's Edge. In Moscow, generals looked at their weapons and wondered if they would be enough. But it was in a small laboratory in Colorado that the first real discovery was made. Dr. Elena Vasquez and her team had been working for 3 weeks straight, trying to understand the alien technology. They had barely slept, living on coffee and determination. "Look at this," said Dr. Carl Bennett, her partner. He was pointing at a computer screen showing the energy patterns from the monitoring devices. "These readings don't make sense. The devices are doing more than just watching us." Elena looked at the data and felt her blood run cold. "They're not just monitoring, they're interfering. Every time we try to test our new rocket engine, something goes wrong. Every time we try to improve our computers, they crash. The aliens aren't just watching us, they're stopping us from getting better." In the next room, engineer Tony Martinez was working on a different problem. He had been trying to understand how the alien devices communicated with each other. "I think I've found something," he called out. "These things work on quantum frequencies. They're sending information faster than light." Rachel Kim, the team's computer expert, looked up from her work. "If they're using quantum frequencies, maybe we can interfere with them, block their signals." Elena felt a spark of hope. "You mean create dead zones? Places where their monitoring doesn't work?" "Exactly," Rachel said. "If we can figure out the right frequency, we can create areas where the aliens can't see or hear us." The breakthrough came 2 days later. Working together, the team managed to create a small field that blocked the alien signals. It only lasted for 30 seconds, but it was enough. For 30 seconds, they had been free. President Walsh called Elena personally. "Doctor, I need to know. Can you make this work on a larger scale? Give me time and resources, and I'll give you invisible cities," Elena replied. While Elena's team worked on the technology, Admiral Rodriguez was making plans of his own. He gathered his best officers in a secure room deep underground. The room was lined with metal that blocked all electronic signals, one of the few places on Earth where they could speak freely. "The aliens think they've beaten us," he said to the group. "They think we'll just sit here and accept our fate, but they don't understand humans very well." General Patricia Stone, a tough woman who had commanded troops in 3 wars, nodded. "What do you have in mind?" "We build," Rodriguez said simply. "We build ships, weapons, and most importantly, we build hope. If we can't leave the solar system, then we'll make sure we're ready when the chance comes." Captain Steve Parker, one of the youngest officers in the room, raised his hand. "Sir, how do we build anything with those alien devices watching our every move?" Rodriguez smiled. "Dr. Vasquez is working on that problem. Soon we'll have places where the aliens can't see us. And in those places, we'll prepare for war." The work began in secret. Using Elena's technology, hidden bases were built around the world, in underground caves, in the deep ocean, in the frozen wastes of Antarctica. Each base was surrounded by the quantum field that blocked alien monitoring. The base in Nevada was the largest. Built inside a mountain, it housed thousands of scientists and engineers. They worked day and night, taking apart every piece of alien technology they could find, learning how it worked, and figuring out how to fight it. Dr. Michelle Turner led the team studying the aliens' weapons. "Their technology is advanced, but it's old," she told her colleagues. "They've been using the same basic designs for thousands of years. They've gotten lazy." "What do you mean?" asked Dr. Bennett, who had been transferred to the Nevada base. "They rely on fear," Michelle explained. "They've never had to really fight anyone because everyone was too scared to try. Their weapons are powerful, but they're not as smart as they could be." In another part of the base, Tony Martinez was working on something that would change everything. He had been studying the alien communication system, trying to understand how they coordinated their control across the galaxy. "It's like a spider web," he explained to Admiral Rodriguez during one of his visits. "Everything connects to everything else. If we could get into their network, we could learn about all the other species they control. And maybe contact them," Rodriguez said thoughtfully. "Maybe," Tony agreed, "but it would be dangerous. If we're caught, they might destroy Earth immediately." Rodriguez looked at the young engineer. "Son, they're already planning to keep us locked up forever. Sometimes you have to take risks to stay free." The breakthrough came 6 months later. Ryan Hayes, now working as Earth's Director of Alien Relations, managed to intercept a council communication. The message was not meant for human ears, but Elena's team had finally cracked the alien communication codes. What they learned changed everything. The message talked about other species, dozens of them, all living under the same restrictions as humanity. Species that had tried to rebel and been crushed. Species that had accepted their fate and lived quietly in their assigned corners of space. But the message also revealed something else. The council was worried. For the first time in their long history, they were facing something they didn't understand. Humans were not behaving like other species. Other species had either fought and been destroyed, or given up and accepted their fate. Humans were doing something else entirely. They were adapting. "They're scared," Elena said as she read the intercepted message. "They don't know what to do with us because we're not following their rules." President Walsh called a meeting of world leaders. In a secure room beneath the United Nations building, protected by Elena's quantum field technology, the most powerful, people on Earth made a decision that would change the galaxy. "We're going to fight," Walsh said simply. "Not just for ourselves, but for every species that's been enslaved by the Council. We're going to show the galaxy that freedom is worth fighting for." The plan was audacious. They would use the Council's own communication network against them. They would spread a message of rebellion to every enslaved species in the galaxy, and they would do it all from their prison in the solar system. The Council had controlled everything for 10,000 years. But they had never faced an enemy like humanity. They had never faced a species that got stronger when it was pushed, that got smarter when it was challenged, that got more determined when it was threatened. Earth was about to reply to the Council's message of control, and their reply would be heard across the galaxy. 2 years had passed since the horizon's edge returned with news of humanity's imprisonment. Earth had changed in ways that no one could have imagined. Hidden beneath mountains, under oceans, and in the frozen wastelands, humanity was preparing for war. Captain Steve Parker floated in the darkness near Jupiter's moons, his small stealth ship invisible to alien sensors. He had been hunting Council monitoring stations for 6 months now, learning their patterns, studying their weaknesses. Tonight, he had found his target. The alien monitoring post looked like a metal spider attached to one of Jupiter's smaller moons. It had been there for decades, watching everything that moved in the outer solar system. But the Council had made one mistake. They thought humans would stay close to Earth, scared and defeated. They were wrong. Steve activated his comm system, using the encrypted frequency that Dr. Elena Vasquez had developed. "Control, this is Ghost Leader. I have eyes on Target 7. Beginning approach." In the secret command center beneath the Nevada mountains, Admiral Ben Rodriguez watched Steve's mission on a dozen screens. "Copy that, Ghost Leader. You are cleared for operation." Steve's ship moved slowly toward the alien station. His team had spent months planning this raid. They knew exactly where the station's weak points were, how many aliens were inside, and most importantly, where they kept their communication equipment. The attack was swift and silent. Steve and his team disabled the station's defenses in minutes. The 3 aliens inside never had a chance to send a warning. Within an hour, Steve was flying back to Earth with the most valuable prize humanity had ever captured, a complete alien communication device. Far away on Mars, Dr. Michelle Turner was working on a different kind of mission. The Red Planet had become humanity's secret weapons laboratory, hidden from alien eyes by the same quantum field technology that protected Earth's hidden bases. Michelle's job was to figure out how to fight beings with technology thousands of years more advanced than humanity's. "The key is not to match their technology," she explained to her team. "It's to use our advantages. We're faster at adapting, better at improvising, and we think in ways they don't expect." Her breakthrough had come from studying captured alien weapons. The Council's technology was incredibly powerful, but it was also predictable. Their weapons had been designed to fight other aliens who thought and acted in specific ways. Humans didn't follow those patterns. "Look at this," Michelle said, showing her team a recording of alien battle tactics. "They always attack in formation. They follow strict rules. They never break their patterns, even when it would help them win." Dr. Carl Bennett, who had joined Michelle's team on Mars, nodded. So we don't follow any patterns at all. We fight like humans. Exactly, Michelle smiled. Chaos is our secret weapon. Back on Earth, Ryan Hayes was working on the most dangerous mission of all. As Director of Alien Relations, he was trying to break into the Council's galaxy-wide communication network. It was like trying to hack into a computer while it was actively trying to kill you. I'm picking up something, Ryan said to his team of specialists. They were working in a shielded room deep underground surrounded by Elena's quantum field generators. It's not directed at us. It's internal Council communication. Rachel Kim, now Ryan's deputy, looked at the data streaming across her screens. It's about us. They're talking about the human problem. The intercepted message was more revealing than anything they had captured before. The Council was having meetings about Earth, arguing about what to do with humanity. Some wanted to destroy Earth immediately. Others wanted to wait and see what humans would do next. But the most important information was what the message revealed about other species. The Council controlled over 200 different worlds, each one locked in their own solar systems, just like Earth. Some had been prisoners for thousands of years. We're not the first to try rebellion, Ryan told Admiral Rodriguez during their daily briefing, but we might be the first to succeed. The other species fought the Council directly and lost. We're doing something different. What's different? Rodriguez asked. We're not just fighting for ourselves, Ryan explained. We're planning to free everyone. The plan that had been growing in secret for 2 years was finally ready. It was so audacious that even the humans working on it sometimes couldn't believe it would work. They were going to turn the Council's own control system against them. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Foster led the final intelligence mission. She commanded a small fleet of human ships, all built in secret and invisible to alien sensors. Their target was the Council's main monitoring station in the outer solar system, a massive facility that coordinated all alien activity in human space. The attack began at exactly midnight Earth time. Amy's ship struck from 6 different directions, using tactics that no alien species had ever tried. Instead of fighting in formation, each human ship acted independently. Instead of following a battle plan, they improvised and adapted as the fight developed. The aliens defending the station had never seen anything like it. Their weapons, designed to target predictable enemy formations, couldn't lock onto targets that moved like dancing ghosts. Their defensive systems built to stop. Organized attacks fell apart when faced with creative chaos. Target acquired, Amy reported as her team captured the station's central computer, beginning data extraction. What they found inside that computer changed everything. The Council's entire control network was mapped out in detail. Every monitoring station, every communication relay, every suppression field generator. More importantly, they found the locations of every enslaved species in the galaxy. But the greatest discovery was the Council's greatest secret. They were not as powerful as they pretended to be. Their control depended entirely on fear and on their ability to coordinate their forces across the galaxy. If that coordination was disrupted, their empire would collapse like a house of cards. Dr. Bennett, working with Tony Martinez and Elena's team, had been developing humanity's ultimate weapon. It wasn't a bomb or a gun. It was something far more dangerous to the Council, an idea. We call it the Liberation Virus, Bennett explained to President Walsh during a secure video call. It's not actually a virus, it's a program that can spread through the Council's quantum communication network. What does it do? Walsh asked. It carries a message, Bennett said. Our message. To every enslaved species in the galaxy, simultaneously. It tells them how to break free, how to disrupt the Council's monitoring, and most importantly, it tells them they're not alone. Elena stepped forward. The Council controls through isolation. Each species thinks they're the only ones who want to rebel. But if they all knew about each other, if they all acted at the same time, revolution, Walsh finished. The final piece of the plan came from an unexpected source. The aliens captured during the raids had revealed something important. The Council was not united. Many of the member species were just as enslaved as the others, forced to serve the Council through fear and manipulation. "We're not just fighting the Council," Admiral Rodriguez told his senior staff. "We're offering freedom to everyone, including some of the aliens who work for the Council." The virus was ready. The message was prepared. Hidden fleets of human ships waited at strategic points throughout the solar system. On dozens of hidden bases, resistance fighters prepared for the moment that would change the galaxy forever. The Council had controlled everything for 10,000 years through fear, isolation, and overwhelming force. But they had never faced an enemy that turned their own weapons against them. They had never fought a species that got stronger by helping others get strong. Humanity was about to send their reply to the Council's message of eternal imprisonment, and their reply would not just free Earth, it would free the galaxy. The day of humanity's reply began quietly. In the hidden command center beneath Nevada, Admiral Ben Rodriguez stood before a wall of screens showing the entire solar system. Red dots marked every Council monitoring station, every alien ship, every point of enemy control. In a few hours, all of those red dots would be targets. "Operation Prometheus is a go," Rodriguez announced to his staff. Around the world, in secret bases and hidden facilities, the message went out. After 2 years of preparation, humanity was about to make their move. High above Earth, Commander Jake Morrison sat in the captain's chair of the New Horizon, a ship built entirely in secret using technology reverse-engineered from alien devices. His original crew from the Horizon's Edge was with him: Lisa Carter at the pilot's controls, Ryan Hayes managing communications, and Amanda Brooks running the engines. "All ships report ready," Lisa said, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were about to attempt. Jake looked at the tactical display. 50 human ships, all invisible to alien sensors, were positioned throughout the solar system. Each one was crewed by volunteers who knew they might not survive the next few hours. But they also knew that if they succeeded, no species in the galaxy would ever be enslaved again. "Ryan, are you ready to send our message?" Jake asked. Ryan Hayes, now Earth's most experienced expert on alien communications, nodded. "The Liberation virus is loaded and ready. Once we break into their network, it will spread to every Council system in the galaxy within minutes." On the Alien Council's primary station, High Arbiter Zekthul was reviewing reports from across the galaxy. The humans had been quiet for months, showing no signs of the rebellion that had worried the Council. Perhaps they had finally accepted their fate. The Earth monitoring stations report normal activity. His assistant reported, "The humans appear to be focusing on their own planet. No attempts to leave their system." Zekthul felt satisfied. The human problem had been solved, just like all the others. Fear was the most effective tool of control, and humans had learned to be afraid. He was wrong. The attack began simultaneously across the solar system. Captain Steve Parker led the assault on the Jupiter monitoring stations, his ships appearing out of nowhere to strike at the alien facilities. The Council forces, caught completely off guard, barely had time to send distress signals before their stations were destroyed or captured. Near Mars, Lieutenant Colonel Amy Foster commanded the attack on the Council's main communication hub. Her ships moved like a pack of wolves, striking from different angles, never staying in one place long enough for the alien weapons to target them effectively. "Their defensive systems can't keep up," Amy reported to Admiral Rodriguez. "They're designed to fight enemies that follow predictable patterns. We're not being predictable." On Earth, Dr. Elena Vasquez and her team worked frantically to break into the Council's quantum communication network. They had one chance to get this right. If they failed, the Council might destroy Earth before they could try again. "I'm in," announced Danny Chen, the young hacker who had joined Elena's team. "Their security is strong, but it's not flexible. They never expected anyone to attack their network from the inside." The Liberation virus spread through the Council's communication system like wildfire. In seconds, it reached monitoring stations across the galaxy. The message it carried was simple but powerful. "You are not alone. Others have broken free. The time for rebellion is now." On worlds dozens of light years from Earth, enslaved species received humanity's message. Species that had been prisoners for centuries suddenly learned that rebellion was possible. The virus carried detailed instructions on how to disrupt Council monitoring, how to organize resistance, and most importantly, how to coordinate with other rebelling worlds. The effect was immediate and devastating to the Council's control. On the crystalline world of Nexus Prime, the native species destroyed their monitoring stations within hours. On the ocean world of Aquatica, the fish-like inhabitants used their superior swimming abilities to attack underwater Council facilities. On the desert planet of Solara, the reptilian natives emerged from their underground cities to reclaim their world High Arbiter. Zekthul watched in horror as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Rebellions were breaking out on dozens of worlds simultaneously. The carefully maintained order of 10,000 years was collapsing in a matter of hours. How is this possible? He demanded of his terrified staff. How are the humans coordinating? They're using our own communication network against us, reported his chief technician. They've turned our control system into a weapon. But the worst news was yet to come. The virus had not just reached enslaved species. It had also reached many of the Council's own member worlds, species that had been forced to serve the Council through fear and manipulation.
Many of them were now joining the rebellion. The blue-skinned Aquarians, who had served as the Council's engineers for centuries, began sabotaging Council facilities. The insectoid Clixon, who had been the Council's information specialists, started
feeding intelligence to the rebels. Even some of the reptilian Sauridae, Zekthul's own species, were turning against the Council. Admiral Rodriguez watched the tactical display as red dots across the galaxy began changing to green. It's working, he said quietly. The whole galaxy is rising up. The final battle came when the Council's emergency fleet arrived at Earth's solar system. Hundreds of alien warships, the most powerful vessels in the galaxy, came to crush the human rebellion before it could spread further, but they were too late. The rebellion had already spread everywhere. Commander Jake Morrison led the human fleet out to meet them. The battle was fierce but brief. The Council's ships were powerful, but they were designed to fight enemies who would stand and fight in organized formations. The humans didn't fight that way. Human ships darted between the massive alien vessels like angry hornets, striking at weak points and disappearing before the Council's weapons could target them. More importantly, many of the Council's own ships were refusing to fight, their crews having received the liberation virus and chosen freedom over slavery. This is Commander Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. Jake broadcast on all frequencies. To all Council forces, you have a choice. Continue serving masters who rule through fear, or join us in building a galaxy where all species are free. The battle ended not with a great explosion, but with a simple message. Ship after ship in the Council fleet powered down their weapons and joined the rebellion. The few remaining loyal ships fled back to Council space, carrying news of their defeat. High Arbiter Zekthul sat alone in his command chamber, watching his empire crumble on the screens around him. 10,000 years of control, ended by a species he had dismissed as primitive children. How? He whispered to himself. The answer came from an unexpected source. One of his own guards, a young Sauridae who had received the human message, looked at him with eyes no longer filled with fear. Because they offered us something you never did, the guard said. Hope. President Catherine Walsh stood before the United Nations, but this time she was not alone. Representatives from dozens of newly liberated worlds stood with her, creating the first truly galactic assembly in history. Today we establish the Galactic Alliance, she announced. Not an empire built on fear, but a partnership built on freedom. Every species, no matter how small or how different, will have a voice in their own destiny. The Council's reign was over. Across the galaxy, the monitoring stations that had enforced their control were being dismantled. The suppression fields that had held back countless civilizations were being shut down. Species that had been isolated for millennia were finally free to meet each other, to trade, to learn, to grow. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, looking out at the stars that no longer seemed foreign and threatening. Humanity had set out to explore the galaxy and found themselves prisoners. But in breaking their own chains, they had freed everyone. The Council had controlled everything through fear and isolation. Earth's reply had been simple but revolutionary. Freedom shared is freedom multiplied. And now, for the first time in 10,000 years, the galaxy was truly free.